And we are live. This is the latest. Hey, Bill, how you doing? This is the latest live stream I've ever done, and this is completely impromptu. Ben, let's see. This is going to be a little challenging. Just give me a second here. Bill, the Whiskey Dick, thank you very much for tuning in. Christopher David, thank you very much for tuning in. Best Demon Hunt, Ben Demon Hunter, thank you very much for tuning in. This is impromptu. I've never done a video this late or live stream this late. And I'll sort of set this up in a second as to why I'm even doing this. Destin Martin, thank you much for tuning in. So long story short, or short story long. Hey, so most of us are coming over from Bourbon Insane, Chris's channel. And thanks for holding down the fort until I came on. So Loch Ness, thank you very much for tuning in. So let me set this up just a little bit. Hold on, I gotta take that come on off just real quick. Hide. So let me set this up just a little bit. So Scotch Test Dummies had an auction for a fundraiser, and a bunch of items came up for bid for auction, and I bid on one of them, which was this bottle. This is the Ardbeg Very Young exclusive committee release Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. This is from distilled in 1997, bottled in 2003. And you say, Eric, I thought you were going to do this like 1963 Ardbeg. I'll get to it. Hang in there. Just a second. So Ardbeg was the gentleman who donated this bottle for the auction. So make a long story short, or short story long. And this is something you repeatedly say when you're old. When you're not going to keep it short, and you're just going to keep rambling, because that's what we do when we get old. Oh, hold on. I got to click something here. Hey, Matt, Whiskey Crusaders, thank you for tuning in. So I got the bottle when I went over to Scotland in July and picked it up from Roy. So I got the box. I'm like, cool. I didn't unwrap it or anything, obviously. Wait till I get home. I knew what I was getting. There was nothing, no surprise there. So when I got the box home and I opened it up, there was a little sample in it, which I was not expecting. It wasn't part of the auction, anything like that. And it was this little sample. I'll hold it up here to you. Ardbeg, 30-year-old, distilled 1963, 40% ABV. It says import sestante. I don't know what the heck that means. Anyway, so that is what the sample is. And I thought, wow, that's really, really, really cool. You know, wasn't expecting it. It was a total surprise. But I didn't give it a whole lot of thought. You know, I was just like, oh, well, that's cool. So I put it on the shelf, you know, with all my Ardbeg stuff. I'm like, yeah, one of these days. Eric Evanson, I got this from Ardbeg. The gentleman goes by Ardbeg. He's over in the UK, and it was something he added as an addition to this bottle, which I've got on auction as a part of a fundraiser. So he donated this bottle. I got it at auction. I went and picked this up in Scotland when I visited Roy. And so this came along with it, and it was a total surprise. Again, I'll hold that up there for in case you're tuning in a little late. And I wasn't, Moose says, yeah, bottles were so small back then. So I didn't think much of it. You know, I put it on the shelf. Hey, one of these days I get to it. You know, meanwhile, move on with life. So Roy Aquavite has Patreon live streams. Some people have Patreons, and I should pay more attention to my Patreons. In addition, as an extra thing for people who support the channel, they'll do private live streams for Patreons or other things. So Roy today was having a Patreon live stream. I tuned in for that, and I didn't know it, but he also had one of these. I'm like, oh, cool. So then Roy goes, he in the conversation, he would open his up. I thought, oh, this would be cool. I'll go get my sample, and then as he's talking about it, I can put in my comments about it. So I've had out of this about this much. Again, I thought perfect time to have it, sort of a virtual drinking together via a live stream. He live, me in the chat, and that was about as much as I thought. That's cool. I thought that would be it. I was not planning on doing a video. Not planning on doing a live stream and so forth. Donna Pass Whiskey, thank you very much for tuning in. but I didn't drink the whole thing. So because it's, by the way, Ardbeg did a primo seal. I mean, it was easy. It was really airtight, and yet it wasn't super difficult to get off. That guy could get a job as a bottle sealer better than all these wax seals. Anyway, did a really good job. Anyway, so it really should be consumed. It should be finished rather than this much oxygen getting in there. So I thought, you know what? What the heck? Let's do a live stream, and I'll talk about this whiskey and in comparison to, in a sense, with these other recent Ardbeg reviews I've done. So this is the Ardbeg 19, and everybody's been talking about this. Hey, Jason, Mash and Drum, thank you very much for tuning in. This is the 19, which I recently reviewed. This is an insane kick in the mouth, punch in the head, foot to the nuts whiskey. Oh no, this one is. This is a Supernova. I got the two mix. This is a super. This is the kick in the balls. Okay, with Pete. This is the grace and elegance and finesse and deliciousness, with a general profile of a 10-year-old Ardbeg 10, but just supremely better. Okay, and that's why everybody's raving about it. It's freaking fantastic. I would rather have that than the Supernova, but I think they're both great. All right. So $300, and this is what blew me away. I was like, holy cow. Ardbeg in the chat said that the 1963 goes for, and you Google this, you can go 7,000 pounds. 7,000 pounds. That would make this full bottle here, I don't know, $500, which is, I was like, holy cow. I was like, whoa. Anyway, so I had no idea. This is the new Supernova. That is the 19. And Matt, you should know that because you should have already watched my review by now. Anyway, so Dustin says, okay, 7,000 pounds sounds about right to me. Now, why didn't I know that it cost 7,000 pounds? There are certain things that I grew up with, and one is, you may have heard this saying before, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Now, what does that mean? One of the ways in which you would evaluate a horse, the health of the horse, you can race horse, whatever, is look in the mouth and check the teeth. Well, if someone gives you a free gift, a free horse, it's very rude to then go, hey, I'm going to look the horse in the mouth and check his teeth. Hey, you got it for free. Don't look in the horse's mouth. So the saying is, don't look, hey, Welsh Turtle, thank you very much for tuning in. And this has got to be really late for you. So if someone gives me a gift, I mean, some things you already know how much it costs. If someone gave me a bottle of Lafroig 10, hey, it's 46 to 50 bucks. If someone gave me a bottle of, Macallan 12, okay, about 55 bucks. You know how much things cost. But if someone gives you a gift, particularly if you're really, really rare, I never Google, see how much it cost, and then go, ooh, they give me something really good, or, oh man, it only costs for this much. It's about the gift. It's about the gift and the thankfulness of the gift, not how much something does or doesn't cost. It is the thought that counts. I really believe that. So I didn't look it up. I thought, but when he said that in the chat, I was like, what? That's freaking nuts. I'm going to pour it in the glass right now. So, by the way, this is a souvenir. So like when you visit Ardbeg Distillery, they give those little sample things that you can sample. So this is something I brought home as a souvenir from Ardbeg Distillery. It's a mini little. So here's a regular Glencairn. Here's a small one. So since it's a mini little sample, it'd be time this cute little Ardbeg glass with a cute little sample. James McGowan, thank you much for tuning in. So I cleaned it out because it's been sitting on the shelf, full of dust. So I'm gonna pour the remainder of this. I think you can see, I'll get that. So you can see how much it is. You can see what color it is, and you can see the remainder. And I'll put it in the glass, and I'll talk about it a little bit. So Roy talked about it. He gave some notes on it, and I think his notes were spot on. So I since he said it was 7,000 pounds, I wanted to verify. So I went online. I looked online. Maybe there's some different bottlings of this from 1963. I don't know. But the one on the Whiskey Exchange was for about $1,500 and some change dollars. That's still a ton of money, $1,500. So one of the United States retailers, I looked on Wine Searcher, I think it was, and I think it was like around $5,000. So prices are all over the place. I don't know how much it goes for, whatever. Somewhere between $1,500 and $7,000, whatever. By the way, I was at a local Total Wine and More. They redid their store. I was over there today, and they have a Macallan, and I said Macallan, not Macallan, Macallan number 6, and they had it for about $4,000. Anyway, so I've already smelled this. I was typing in notes when Roy was doing his live stream, and so I already have a general impression of it. But here is the thought behind it. Let's just for the sake of environment, let's just say it's $1,500. Yeah, Chris says it's betting closer to $1,500. I don't know. So even the Macallan number 6, the prices were all over the place. So the Scotch 4 Dummies got it like $2,500, and I've seen as high as like $5,000. So prices can be all over the place, right? But still, $1,500 is a big wad of cash for a whiskey, right? So throughout the day today, I've been thinking about it, and so when Chris Bourbon saying he did an impromptu live, I didn't know he was going live. I was doing laundry and washing my dishes, and it was kind of winding down the night. So I was actually most of the live stream I was busy doing stuff, and then I came up with that. Hey, what the heck? Let's do a live stream. What is the value of the whiskey? Here's the issue. What is the value of this whiskey? $1,500, $5,000, 7,000 pounds, $100. What is the value? I don't think the value at this point has anything to do with dollars. The dollar amount, I'm gonna get a little philosophical here. Value is neither the beholder. True. The dollar amount is how much someone's willing to pay for it. That's how much someone's willing to pay for it. I don't think that's the value. There are some things in life, because of their historical importance, because it's the context, because of who the person is, because of what the thing is, because of what was going on, is what really sets its place in terms of something to be valued. So if you could get, for example, I'm going to keep smelling this where I'm doing this. If you can get a 1973, I think it's a 73 Chateau Montelena Chardonnay. And you're like, what the heck is that? In 1976, you probably heard the story before. 1976, in a blind competition on French soil using French judges, 2 American wineries in the Napa Valley beat the French. And this is called the Judgment of Paris. There was a movie about it. It's loosely based on it called Bottle Shock. I've actually seen 2 bottles of that Chardonnay, one at the Smithsonian, and the other one is actually in a museum in the Napa Valley. Now, what's the value of that Chardonnay? If you actually blind taste a Chardonnay, is that Chardonnay so fantastic it's worth $1 gazillion? No. The value of the Chardonnay, the importance of the Chardonnay, is its place in history. This is a historical, world-changing event for the world of wine. That's the point. That's the point. And I think sometimes beyond whatever people are willing to pay for it, put that aside, the value of something is its place in history and the experience of this answer, be able to answer the question. How does the intensity of peat change and evolve and integrate into a whiskey over time? How can you answer that question? The only way you can answer that question is to experience a whiskey. I don't know why you get blocked. To experience the whiskey and to be able to compare in your mind this whiskey versus that whiskey so that you have at least a small sense of how the peat and everything else evolves in time in a bottle, and how does a whiskey seem like? Does it age in the bottle? Does it age in the bottle? It doesn't mature in the way we think of maturation, but it seems that older whiskeys do develop a unique character to them. And the only way to learn about that is to try it. And so sometimes, regardless of how much money you paid for it, Ben Demon Hunter says, only heard about Paris because of you. Thank you. Oh, cool. So sometimes something's only worth, it's the value is in the education. The value is in the historical moment. The value is in to be able to then take what you get from that and then compare it to other whiskeys, such as the Ardbeg Supernova, the Ardbeg 19-year-old, or eventually I'm going to open this. I'm planning on opening this with Scott and Bart from Scotch Says Dummies. I'm saving it for a special occasion. Don't know when it'll happen. Maybe I'll go out to Kansas. I don't know, but one of these days. So Chris says the value is in the experience for me too, quite often. Right. And those are unique moments in life that you can't buy. You know, they come and they go. And the challenge is, particularly people who are studying for exams, sommelier exams and so forth, is to get access. Be able to taste old wines. Another really important, say, for wine would be a 1982 Bordeaux, first growth, Lafite, Chateau Margaux, Chateau Latour. Why 1982? 1982 is the year that put Robert Parker on the map. Who's Robert Parker? Robert Parker is a wine critic. And that year in which he judged that vintage set him apart from everybody else. And it turned out to be a spectacular year. And everybody disagreed on it, and there was a whole lot of controversy. Okay, so what? Robert Parker is the one who developed the 100-point system, which got into the Wine Advocate, which then got into the Whiskey Advocate, and everybody else who uses this 100-point system. The history from that comes from Robert Parker, and the Robert Parker becoming respected as a wine critic comes from the 1982 review of Bordeaux. Eric, you're doing a lot of talking. You're not doing a lot of drinking. When are you going to shut up and taste this thing? I heard you. I know you didn't say it, but you were thinking it. So that's it. So what do we get on the nose? I'll look at the color real quick. Very, very light. It's kind of like the color of a white wine, and yet a minuscule amount of a green, slightly green tinge that you kind of get on. You have to look at it at the particular angle. It's not obvious, but it's very common for. I don't know why people are getting blocked. Mac Drums, shut up in your face, as my grandfather would say. So that got blocked. Why? There's nothing in there. That doesn't make any sense. Eric Evanson, how you doing? So I'm gonna try to be as accurate as I can. There's a character in it that I think is the bottle age. It's like almost like a dustiness. Imagine if you're going to a room that no one has opened a door for a long time and it's been airtight in maybe an old house, and it's the first time anybody there, and you have to kind of really push the squeaky old door, and then you get into the house and there's a mustiness there. There's a little bit of that. Eric's beard right now has become an Ardbeg peat bog. Probably. I actually this is funny. I haven't bought shampoo in decades. And I actually bought a bottle of shampoo for washing in my beard, and I have to comb my beard, particularly after I eat, you know. Anyway, so there's a little bit of that, but the smoke is like a whisper, super well integrated. It's still there. But I've already tasted it once, but it's more on the palate than it is on the nose. It's just very, very subtle on the nose. It's more on the palate. Do you get any fruit? Yeah, but it's hard to describe. It might be like dried pineapple. There might be a lighter chocolate note. There might be a little citrus, a lemon, but almost like dried lemons. There's a saltiness there. There is a saltiness there that I actually don't typically get in Ardbegs. And I don't know if it's oceanic influence or what. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't. But there's a saltiness and a brininess there, and yet not without the seaweed and all those sort of other characteristics. Bourbon Saint says, I've gotten pineapple on a few of the Ardbeg. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Well, at least I'm accurate on that one. I may be crazy. But Dean, it's not a fresh pineapple. It's not a canned pineapple. It's not a cooked pineapple. It's dried pineapple. And those are very so if you haven't had dried pineapple, you got to go to if you have a Trader Joe's, go to Trader Joe's and get a bunch of dried fruits. You can get a dried mango. You can get all kinds of dried fruits there at Trader Joe's. There's a whiff of smoke. There's like a little bit of dried pineapple. There's a little bit of lemon, but it's a distinctive saltiness that I've never picked up in an Ardbeg. So let's take a sip. I'm sorry for the silence. I got to give this a second. I got to give this a moment. Sorry. There's a unique evolution, and there's that character again. It's like a dusty house. It's a unique ashiness. My guess is, and I don't know because I haven't had enough old Ardbegs and not enough old peated whiskeys to base a comparison. You know, I haven't had enough, right? This is one that I would need to have a whole bunch of others from that year and that time period as a basic comparison. This is just one unique experience. My guess is this is the echo of the peat. It's sort of like, you know, you clang a cymbal like Jason goes clang. He usually stops it with his hand, right? When he hits a cymbal, he goes shh, and then stops the noise with his hand. Well, if he just went shh and didn't stop with his hand, there would be like this dissipating sound from the cymbal, right? That's this, but with the peat. There's this. It's a sustaining sound. It's a sustaining whiff of smoke, so that it's not the big boom, and it's not even the embers left over from last night's campfire on the beach. It's just like this kind of whiff that kind of continues, and the whiff of smoke becomes like a dusty ash. And yet, it's not masking anything. Interwoven with everything is that sort of dried pineapple character to it. That saltiness is definitely there, but without the seaweed and all that kind of character to it. The feel of it is light. This is there's something in sensations apart from aromas and flavors. So you ever have a super hot pavement or hot pan, right? And you put water on it and the water doesn't even stay there. It just like immediately evaporates off. Or if you ever on a real hot day, it rains and the ground doesn't really get wet because it evaporates so quickly. That's kind of like what this is doing on the palate. It's only 40 ABV, right? And we're not used to Ardbeg being only 40 ABV. But in terms of the flavors, so imagine this is my tongue. The flavor hit my palate, and it's almost as if, just like water on a hot pavement or light rain on a hot pavement that immediately evaporates and doesn't even really get the soil ground. So there's no puddle, but immediately sort of evaporates, and now you have humidity if it's raining, right? immediately evaporates, and you're getting this sort of a waft of vapor. That's what this does on the palate. As soon as it's in your mouth, the flavors and everything like that are sort of evaporating through your mouth and up into the retronasal, so that's coming up around the back end, so you get up in the nasal. That's sort of the way this thing sort of lifts. When you think of whiskeys, usually you taste it, smell it, and then it goes down, and then you get from here, right? Usually getting these retronasal or the follow through, the finish from in here. This never makes it past here. This never makes it past here. As soon as it's in here, it's like goes up like that. That's the sort of sensation of it. And yet, even though it doesn't have a huge punch, there's none of that. And yet, it's got a lot of flavor. And it's got a real long finish. I can taste it right now. It's going on for days and days and days as I'm talking now. Now, what sticks in the long term is the smoke and the salt. That fruit character to it. Now, once you got that sort of evaporating off the palate sensation, the fruit's gone, and what remains is the waft of smoke and saltiness that carries through. All right, I've tried really, really hard to describe this. I'm working really hard to try to put into words what the sensation is. That's hard. Sometimes it's hard to describe things, and particularly if you've never had anything before. So that's why I have to sort of use all these analogies to try to explain this. That's sort of the sensation of it. Now, let's say I was tasting this blind. You know what's kicking in real late? Vanilla. Probably, yeah, it arrives really, really, really late. It has a late, a vanilla character to it. What? I've been doing all this talking and not tasting it, and I'm just not getting it. I'm just not getting it. This is vanilla, and almost like a vanilla pastry. Imagine if someone had some sort of cookie or pastry with a lot of vanilla on it, and then someone was smoking a cigarette, and then flick their cigarette on your vanilla whatever pastry, and now you got the vanilla pastry with cigarette ash. Now I'm kind of getting that. It doesn't sound good, but that's what I'm getting. All right. So sorry, I got distracted by the vanilla. It just started kicked in really, really, really late. If the camera seems like it's shaking, it's because I'm using the laptop, and the laptop's on the table. If I move the table, smoked vanilla ice cream, Chris, Bourbon Insane. There you go. There you go. Absolutely. Thank you very much. There you go. There you go. That's perfect. Perfect. Awesome. So by the way, if earthquake, I'm not using my camera, which would be separate on a stand. I'm using the laptop, so if I vibrate the table, this is going to move. But anyway, whatever. He's been drinking a whole bunch of drams, and he comes up with the brilliance of the analogy, and he's not even tasting it. You get a star for the day. So if I was tasting this blind, I didn't know what it was. Someone poured me in this. I'm tasting this. What would I think? Context and what you think of something is huge. I'd be like, it's interesting. It's okay. Doesn't wow me. Would you pay $100 for it? No. Let alone $1,000 or 7,000 pounds or something ridiculous like that. Would I pay that much for it? No. Because for 46 to 50 bucks, I can get me an Ardbeg 10. $300. I can get an Ardbeg Supernova, or I can get me an Ardbeg 19-year-old. So what's the value? Again, going back to the original. So what's the value of it? The value of it is apart from the actual flavors and taste. And it only has value if you're a geek, if you're a nerd. And that's the value of it, because the average person is going to be like, so what? I was born in 1966. This is from 1963. I have a brother who's born in 1963. This is 3 years older than me, and I'm probably older than almost everybody in the chat. And that's sort of the context of it. And that, and not only that I would not go out and buy this, but even at $1,500, if I saw one, I wouldn't go out and buy it, even to have the experience. But the fact that somebody gave this to me, this is another value. It's value because of historical setting, because it's an educational opportunity to taste something and to experience how something that peat has evolved into it. There's all that. The fact that I'm already a huge Ardbeg fan, I can now say I've had a 1963 Ardbeg, but somebody gave this to me. And that puts an additional value on it because I'm very thankful. Yeah, this I bought at auction, but I'm very thankful that he goes the extra mile, takes the extra step, and gives me something like this so that I could have this experience and go, wow, that was really, really cool, and then share it with you all. Eric Emerson says, it's because you're a great guy and an amazing sense of humor. And most importantly, because I spell my name with a K and not a C, right? We spell our names E-R-I-K, the way Eric should be spelled. So I'm really, Ardbeg, if you happen to watch this later, and I'm telling you to be up this time of the night or morning in your time. So to Ardbeg, I want to raise a glass to Ardbeg. Thank you very much, sir. I greatly appreciate it. It's been a great education and a fantastic experience, and thank you very much. And so cheers to you, sir. Thank you. And I'm actually glad I'm glad I got to earlier today try the first half of this. I'm gonna see if I can squeeze out another drop with Roy during the live stream. That was a unique experience to drink the same rare whiskey at the same time as somebody else in the live and during the live stream. That was really, really cool. So cheers to Ardbeg. Really, really interesting. The funny thing is, that distant ashy character to it, that slight mustiness, you can get that in old, probably for a radically different reason, completely different reason, but you can get that from old wines as well. But I'm sure it's for a completely different reason, particularly if they've been like in a wine cave or wine cellar or something like that. It's a similar character, but obviously for completely different reasons. Alrighty, so that was the Ardbeg 30-year-old distilled 1963, 40% alcohol by volume. Absolutely awesome. All right, so we've been on for half an hour, a little over half an hour or so. Eric, you and Bill's Discord. So I'm a member of a couple of different Discords, Scotch for Dummies. I'm in Bill's as well. And I think I've had this discussion with Bill before. There's so many apps and so many things. So you got YouTube, you got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got Instagram, you got Discord, you got all this stuff going on. And my videos, particularly the history of Scotch, I'm going to pour myself another glass, by the way, while I'm going blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pour myself a little bit more of the Supernova, which will, now probably completely blow out my palate from whatever I was previously tasting, but that's okay. There's so many, and there's more apps. I can only do so much. I don't have the time for it. The history of Scotch whiskey, the business of Scotch whiskey, and my current series, I'm spending 9 hours per video. That's nuts. I'm putting so much time into those. I don't have time for another app. I would like to. I just don't. If I had somebody else who could do a lot of the background stuff, I would get more involved. I just don't have time for it. I have a Facebook group for my own thing. I don't spend enough time on that. I run a study group for the Court of Master Sommeliers. I don't spend enough time on that. I'm a spread pretty thin. So I'm going to pour myself a little bit of the Supernova. Bourbon Chris says, I believe it. Eric, those videos are great. Thank you very much, sir. That is amazing. Cheers to you. Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. So I'm just going to pour myself a little bit Oh, shoot. I did not mean to pour that much. I'm not pouring it back in there, so there we go. I only meant to pour about half of that. I was too busy talking. Oops. Oops. So this, color-wise, I mean, I kind of, you've probably already seen my review. This is really, really golden, but it's bright and shiny. The other interesting difference between the 1963 and this one, this has a brightness to a shininess, a glistening color to it. There was also, and I didn't really pay close attention to it, there was also slight, I'm trying to hold on my burps, slight oiliness to it, to the 1963 30-year-old. There was a slight oiliness to it. There is a lot more to this one. Oops. Yep. Hey, Welsh, can't let it go to waste. Got to drink it now. So my reviews, I'm going to be like this. You're an amazing job. Thank you with the whole whiskey thing. And I have a wine channel too. Which I easily forget about. Thank you, Loch Ness. Thank you very much. I have a wine channel too, which is often neglected. And I got a whole other things going on in the wine world I'm neglected. So I'm going to bring this into another conversation. I'll change subjects. I'm just hoping nobody I work with or work for is watching. So last week was really, really stressful at work. I won't go into it. But Friday, I was really ready to turn my resignation. I'm teetering on the fence, turning my resignation in tomorrow. I've not been sleeping well. I've been waking up at 2 a.m., just stressed. Kind of tired of the bullshit. So it's never good to quit a job when you don't have another setup in place. I've sent out like a dozen or so resumes over the weekend. So we'll see how it goes. But I want to get, and what I really want to do is get into the whiskey and or wine business. That's my goal. What I do for a living and what my passion should be one and the same. Take all this training and studies and certifications and put it to good use and get in the industry. That's my heart. So if you happen to know anybody looking for anybody, let me know. Chris says, I get that, Eric. Work sucks sometimes. Wish we could do this for a living. Absolutely. But I've been studying wine and whiskey for a long period of time, and I probably should have jumped ship a long time ago and gotten into it. But I'm 53 years old. What I want to do for the next 10 years, let's get into the industry. A little late, but let's get into it now. I don't want to wait. Then is it really work? So there's that challenge is, do chefs who spend all day cooking at home come home? I'm cooking at work, come home and cook, or do they go, no, I've been cooking all day, I don't feel like cooking? That's the challenge. Jason, whiskey wise, he hasn't posted a video in a long time. He's working full time in the industry. So then to stay enthusiastic on the job, doing this at work, or not that you sit around drinking whiskey or wine all day, but to come home and talk about more when you get home. Are you really in the mood? I think I would be. Matt says, I totally agree. This is what we're working on doing. Yep. Getting into the industry and have a solid plan. That's cool. Bill says, if things didn't work out, you can sleep on my couch, but you need to shave your beard. What, you think I'm going to be like a cat? Leave Bill, you got a cat? No, Eric's been sleeping on our couch. He's leaving hairs behind. Eric Evanson says, a guy I work with has a quick vin. Yeah, there's one called a Coravin. It's a wine saver. I'm familiar with it. I don't really need it. I don't know what Erik Wait hairballs. So here's the weird thing about my beard. It grows straight. So when I was a kid, I had blonde hair. I got a picture. One of these days I'll show you a picture of myself when I was in high school. Straight blonde hair. A lot of people, like, if you have black hair, you have more hair. I don't want to turn this to a beard channel. If you have black hair, you have more hairs per square inch. If you're blonde, you have far less per square inch. So you need more beard and hair on your face in order to cover up the gaps, right? And then my hair comes out straight, and because it comes out straight, it tends to just want to go like crazy homeless man, living under a freeway overpass, kind of crazy looking like. So you got to comb it, but if I trimmed it back real tight, you couldn't see it because it's so thin, it's so light. So whatever. But I'm not turning this into a whiskey beard channel. I'm not going to keep talking about beards. I don't know why. Bernstein says, "Oh, Eric, you already have halfway to beard channel. I see marketing opportunity for you." I've been to Whiskey Fest and Whiskeys of the World, and there's this guy. He has a table set up for beard products at a whiskey. There's no hair products. There's no makeup products. There's whiskey, and then there's a guy with a table for beard products. So apparently there is a close symbiotic relationship between dudes with beards and whiskey. I think tattoos as well, and maybe those big plug things that people put in their ears. The hipster whiskey guys. So I think the beard oil guy is targeting the whiskey hipster. I haven't even taken a sip of this. The whiskey hipster. Whoa. Wow. Wow. Ooh, I'm sorry. I think that's what he's doing. Anyway, I'm talking about. So there is apparently some sort of beard symbiotic relationship. And I actually I deleted it, but I posted on Facebook. I had this guy, man, this long rant against me. And then he was making all these negative comments about my beard. I was like, dude, get a freaking life. That I'm trying to be a hipster, a hipster or whatever. I was like, can't wear skinny pants. I guess I'm an old fart hipster or whatever. The whiskey hipster, the next whiskey tube channel to come around. That's not a bad idea. So there is the Scully's House of Thrillers. Thank you much for tuning in. Scully's House of Thrillers, he's someone I met through Nick Nimmin, and Nick Nimmin is someone I became aware of because of Bill, the Whiskey Dick. So there's no age statement on the Supernova, so I have no idea how old it is. If I were to take a guess, I'd guess 11, 12 maybe. I think it's older than a 10. It seems more mature than a 10-year-old. I'll say that much, but less than 20. So I'm going to guess on average maybe 12. And I would love to hear what someone else thinks on that factor. So it is another additional value to then take something that is much younger. I could do this with an Ardbeg 10 as well. An Ardbeg 10 would be a little bit more genuine because that's 46%, whereas this is 50. Man, it's hard to read. 53.8. So it would be Matt or anyway. So it would be a more better comparison to do the 10 with the third in terms of the ABV character, but whatever. We're talking about the intensity of the peat and the maturation of the peat. But with any other Ardbeg, to sort of put a scale in your head. So I could go the Ardbeg 10, and then I could kind of go Ardbeg 19. There's the Ardbeg 20 something. I'm not saying that because I don't know what the number is. It's called the Ardbeg 20 something. I've had a sample of that. I can't think I've had any older Ardbegs that I could think of, but you can kind of set up a scale in your head and make a range. Okay, here's a 30-year-old. Here's a 10-year-old. 2/3 away is a 19-year-old. And now you have a scale in your head. Again, this isn't science. This isn't an exact science. This is an approximation, estimation based on a limited amount of experience. Keep that in context. But at least from an educational purpose, I got a certain sense of what peat does as it gets older. And of course, there's other issues. What kind of barrels did they use and what was the ppm and all that? There's all the other variables. But at least in a limited sense, it's a general idea of what peat is like as it gets older. Bourbon Saint says, What was that very limited Ardbeg that tried at the bar that one time? I know. Oh, it was the Ardbeg Supernova, but it was a different bottling. So they've been, if you from a video, so this is like the 5th incarnation of the Supernova. The last one was the 2015, if I recall correctly. Dustin says, Datesov says, and all the 20-somethings are the old stills, while the 19 is the new stills. Oh, interesting. That's cool. I did not know that. Anyway, so you can sort of, at least in a general approximation, get a sense of an idea of how does age affect peat. Now, of course, this is just one producer. You would then want to, if you can, try to do something similar with Laphroaig, something similar. Let's take another sip. I didn't take a sip. I took a gulp. I got more in my mouth than I usually do. So now my eyes are watering just a little bit. I'm getting emotional. Anyway. Man, if you could see the peat, it'd be like a big cloud of smoke just going. I feel like there should be the big puff of smoke just coming out of my mouth as if I'm smoking a cigar right now. Wow. Anyway, and I'm getting this. I'm getting get the little bit of warmth and heat down here, which is a good thing. So now to sort of learn about peat and impact of peat and age on peat, if you can do Laphroaig, Lagavulin, maybe even Beaumont, some other ones, and try that as well. Eric Evans says, just because you poured yourself extra don't mean gulp it. Yeah, I know. I'm not. So I've been on for about 50 minutes. I'm going to stay on for about another 10 minutes. I got to get up early in the morning and go to work. Fuck. Get a Laphroaig 25 if you can. It's awesome. I think I just saw one of those. What was the price on it? I know it made my eyes roll back in my head. It was pretty expensive. It was a few hundred quid. I gotta work quid into my conversation now. So what have I got going on? As I'm probably gonna catch a little bit of television before I go to bed. You can get there for about 500. Yeah, I was figuring that. He says it's worth it. I'm not spending 500. I'm sure it is. And for maybe get together with some other people. Maybe I tried it at a whiskey bar, which is another thing. So the education of trying these things. So Bill, the Whiskey Dick, and I, we've both been to this, not at the same time, maybe one of these days we will. There's a really, really cool whiskey bar in San Diego. I lived there for 8 years. It's another reason I moved down there. Called the Whiskey House. It's on like 3rd Street or 3rd Avenue, which is where I'd had Supernova before. But if you can go to a place like that, or if you're at Milroy's in England or some other, and you see these rare bottles, these odd age bottles, and yeah, you don't want to shell the bucks for a full bottle, but you go, hey, there's a Laphroaig 25 up there. There is this bottle, this bottle, this bottle. I have a video. It'll be posting on Wednesday. It'll be a video in which I was in London and I met up with Evan from Top Whiskies. We met up at Milroy's in London. So I did like a 15-minute discussion with him and Milroy's. And Milroy's has some really odd, rare bottles. I mean, even not just closed distilleries, but even closed independent bottlers that don't exist anymore. Anyway, so that video will post on Wednesday. Next Saturday, while a lot of us are going to be down Texas, Roy and I had visited, and Roy mentioned it during his private live stream today, Patreon live stream today. Roy and I went down to Annandale Distillery. It's a resurrected distillery in the Lowlands when I was there in Scotland. So I thought it would be really cool for us to have a discussion and talk about our experience there. So on Friday, this last Friday, I did it. We recorded a video. It's about our discussion is about a half an hour. And so we talk about our trip to Annandale. We talk about our impressions of Annandale and a lot of other things. That video will post 3 a.m. Saturday, Pacific time. So that'll be 6 a.m. on the East Coast, and that'll be 11 a.m. I think in the UK next Saturday. So if you can't make it to, and again, I know there's going to be live streams going on. Bill's going to do a live stream, but when you first get up in the morning on Saturday, before tuning in to all the live streams down in Texas that we have in Texas, just check out the video. We had a really good time doing the video. We had a good time hanging out together. Really awesome. So that'll be posted next Saturday. Is our discussion of our trip to Annandale Distillery. So I fly out Friday. I'll be meeting up with Bill Whiskey Deck at the airport in Austin, Texas. By the way, the weather report for Austin, Texas is only good for about 48 hours. The weather is radically changes. California weather reports are good for a week. Texas radically changes, but for those who are going, keep an eye on the weather. Be ready for warm weather, shorts and t-shirts, flip-flops, whatever. So you never know. Just let you know. And it's crazy. It won't be as bad as the big event they had last year. It was like 105. I hear rumors it could drop down to like 80, which Fahrenheit, which would be fine. Eric says, what time does the BB start? I don't know what BB is. Bastard's Ball. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. It's funny. I don't know. 2 p.m. Matt says 2 p.m. The Bastard's Ball. I know what it is now, Chris. BB. What's a BB? Yeah, the Bastard's Ball. You know what? Here is if we're all staying at the same hotel, a lot of us are, the La Quinta or La Quinta, whatever. All I got to do is follow everybody else. We're all going to the same place. We're all eating breakfast together. We all have coffee together in the morning. We're all hanging out. So as long as I'm with the herd, I don't have to worry about what time it is. I just got to make sure I'm with the herd and we're all showing up. If I'm anywhere by myself, other than my room, and I can't find anybody, then I'm in the wrong place. So, all right. Yeah, we're going to be Ubering. Nice. All righty. So this was an impromptu. It was late in the day. I want to thank Chris Bourbon Insane. He did a really excellent live stream for almost 2 hours. Did a primo job. After a long day of work for him. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. It was totally awesome. Really late in the day. We all got to get up in the morning. So I'm going to sign off, and I look forward to those who are going to meet up in Texas. Again, I got a video will be posted on Wednesday, my discussion with Evan from Top Whiskeys. And we'll see y'all. All right. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, and have a great week. Cheers.